Hello, I'm Jack Stafford, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Live from Italy. I love being able to be international, man. I mean, and I know you know this. We're about to get into this, but to be able to communicate, even if it's this way with folks from other places, it puts your own world into perspective, you know. And one of the things I've learned along the way is not to borrow anybody else's problems because our own are just, they're hard enough. So thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for doing what you do in service to all of humanity. I dig that. And I guess give us your elevator pitch on who Jack Stafford is and what you do.
Well, that's a tough one. Right now, I'm sitting in my bath, sweating in the south of Italy. Here, sorry for my appearance. It's just the coolest room in the house. I've lived in the
Are
south of
you
Italy for
literally in your
8 years.
bathtub?
No, it's just behind here. I should, for effect,
Oh.
be inside, but no. Maybe as the interview goes on, I might have to strip off. But it's so humid. I'm right by the sea. I'm opposite the Amalfi Coast. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. I can see Capri from my window.
Wow.
You wouldn't like it. You wouldn't like it.
Yeah, sounds horrible. Yeah.
But it's just so hot that I'm just sweating here. So excuse my appearance.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah.
So tell us what you do for a living so we can all understand why we need to go to jackstafford.org.
Well, I'm a writer and musician, and I was a world traveler before I came to. I was a troubadour. I was playing house concerts all around the world. So I travel by bicycle, by train, by plane, all over the world. I've about 40 countries in the end, and I just play house concerts in people's homes for their friends or family. And yeah, I made a living doing that. But then I met this girl, and I came back to Italy. That's the end
Well,
of the road.
that's not a bad thing, man.
No.
Meeting a girl and living on the Italian coast is pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Tell me about this troubadour lifestyle because it's it's Jack Kerouacian or whatever, but you're going around country to country. 40 countries even in Europe, 40 countries. Look, if you look at the United States, if you go to 40 states, you stand out. Like, wow, you've been to a lot of places. So talk about that, how that happened and what was that like?
Well, I was living in Amsterdam before I did that. I was a musician in Amsterdam, and I had a copywriting agency. I was also a fashion designer. I made these suits with the zip, and I had the kind of a toy boy lifestyle in Amsterdam for about 10 years. And it was a great life, but I just did more and more and more and more things. And I was in a band with my girlfriend at the time, and we broke up. We just bought this house together, which was another stress. And I had this shop and office and a house, and I kind of had a breakdown. And I booked this tour, and I kind of went on the tour on my own, and I never stopped. So it's kind of from a bad situation. I had this dynamite underneath me, and then I shot up into the air for about 2 years.
And when you're booking these couch side concerts, I mean, how does that work? Like, you just reach out to someone in Bruges and say, I'm riding my bike from Luxembourg over to Bruges, or how does that work?
Exactly. Everyone has 20 friends in a living room, and I have the guitar. So between us, we can make a show. I used to use the couch surfing website quite a lot, or Warm Showers, which is hosting cyclists. So you can just write on the forum, and then people would, or it was via, you're cycling here, you're going to Ghent tomorrow, you're going to go and stay with Jean-Claude because he's such a great guy. And, there was no time limit to it. So, but I could play a show on a Tuesday and then go to the next town and the next. So it wasn't shows every day, but it was very liberating. It was very tiring. It's very discombobulating to be living that lifestyle. And I wouldn't do it again, but I'm glad I did it.
I wouldn't do it again. So are you carrying all of your gear with you on this bike when you're traveling around, like guitars and all that stuff?
I had a travel guitar, which is a Martin. It's just like a wedge, and it's just like a baseball bat. And you could didn't have a great sound, but it was enough for the small rooms,
And any amplification of sound at all, or no?
Not needed, no, because I just sang in the
small room.
So it's small gigs, yeah.
And then how much do you get? I mean, it's almost like you're like an international busker of sorts, but how much do you get for these kind of living room gigs?
Well, it depends. I mean, you just played for donations. All right, those were the days in CDs, so I could sell CDs,
Right.
but they were very heavy to carry, so I was torn. But sometimes people, I played a gig in like California, a guy shakes your hand with $200 in it, or another times you get nothing. So it's ups and downs.
Yeah. Sometimes you get nothing. So when you're doing this, are you purposeful in this intention, or are you sort of drifting and trying to figure out what it is that you need to do? Because this is an odyssey, but it doesn't seem like you necessarily know what you're doing if you do this type of thing. But I'm asking, like, you tell me.
Well, I was driven to the house concerts because I used to book the tours in advance, like that tour around America. I was so excited; these venues have accepted me, and I'm gonna go and turn up to a full house, and it's gonna be amazing. But it turns out I'm playing at 7 o'clock an act when there's 5 other acts on the list, and I'm playing to the sound
Right.
guy, and so I'm better off going to someone's house where I know I can get fed, and I'll get fed and watered, and I'll have a minimum audience, because if you invite a musician into your house, it's embarrassing if none of your friends turn up. So everyone they add all their friends on Facebook. You're never gonna believe this, but I've got a guy from England coming to play in my living room. You have to come.
Yeah.
And it's guaranteed. People say, "Wow, I've never heard of this." So you get an audience, and you get people are engaged, and you earn more money. You get a much better reaction. It's fantastic. So yeah, those crappy bar shows drove me to that, but in the end, I was much better for it.
Yeah. And it's too bad the bar owner isn't doing the same thing. Like they're like, I sell booze, you sell tickets, I'll see you later.
Yeah. Well,
So okay, let's get into the song part of it. So do you do any covers at all, or is this all original material when you're out playing?
yeah, it's all original. Yeah, I just wrote songs about my adventures and the place, Troubadour style,
Right.
politics, the Troubadour Chronicles. So it's documented my life. If you go back through my albums on Spotify or anywhere,
Right.
you can hear my life story, from singing about girls and breakups to more socioeconomic things, and now evolving it into a more physical thing, where I wrote songs about Ayurveda when I was in India, my interest in Indian medicine and trying to fix health issues in the physical, and then evolving into more of the mind as you get the body fixed. It's kind of like a pyramid of you fix things, and then you have to, you earn money, you get married, you fix your body, then you fix your mind, and then you move on to the spirit.
And if you guys go to YouTube and just type in Jack Stafford, he should come up. It's a tight shot on his face. YouTube.com/C/Jack Stafford, and you can see all the videos there. And there's a wide variety of things. As you're finding these stories to tell in Troubadour fashion, and you're talking about politics, are you savvy to the politics of the area that you in? Are you writing to a general condition? How does that work for you?
Usually it was quite left wing, yeah. But usually the people who will let you sleep on their couch are not people who are, protesting against face masks or arming themselves.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like locally though, like if you end up in Ukraine, are you aware of Ukrainian politics, or if you're in Kansas, are you tracking what's locally? Okay, so just the greater condition of humanity is what you're talking about. Okay,
exactly. Yeah,
and then right. As you talk about this triangle of care, let's get into that, like what that's about, because you're right, like mental, spiritual, physical, these things all work together. And if you don't take care of one part of the system, your system doesn't work so good. So is that part of, how did you develop that from being the toy boy to the troubadour on the road? I mean, look, being a troubadour on the road, as you know, it's a hard way to manage that 3-part system.
Well, it's like the world of podcasts. I mean, you can listen to entrepreneurial podcasts, and then you want to earn a lot of, how to earn a lot of money and be successful and famous or influence people or be charming. You kind of start on a very materialistic and then a superficial, you know, you kind of you go to the physical shell, and there's loads of these podcasts about how to tone your body, and then there's all these podcasts about how to deal with your mind, and then there's all these spiritual podcasts. So yeah, it's reflected in your world as well. I think in all realms of the world we live in. So I was just a
Yeah.
microcosm of that.
Okay. And then, so the songwriting process, I can see how you're constantly inspired on your bike, riding through, wherever it's going to be, Liechtenstein or whatever.
It's hard not
Do,
to be inspired. When
yeah,
you're
yeah. I mean,
traveling, you're just exposing yourself to all this stimulation. It's an overload.
yeah. What areas stood out to you in terms of like, I have to stop, get off my bike, and write these words down right now? Or is that how you do it? Do you just sing it out loud till you work it out?
Yeah, it's usually because the mind's been chewing on these things, so it's usually fresh in the morning. What you've been thinking about the day before, or what issues you've encountered, and then you spew it out in a song in the morning, just in one go, really. It's kind of channeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just kind of
Right.
channel a song. Yeah.
And when you say troubadour, that makes me think of someone who's maybe more focused on the words than particularly fancy music, because you can't; those two things can't compete. Like you need to, simplify the chords so that the words stand out. Is that a good guess? Yeah. Okay.
Definitely. I mean, the latest song, my new single, which is just coming out, is called "The OK Plateau," and that's about how you reach a plateau in something. So for me, it was the guitar. When I started learning the guitar, I accelerated very quickly, and I learned all these chords, and and then you reach proficiency, and then you stop practicing, you stop improving, and you just plateau, and it's okay.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
improved in my guitar playing in the last 20 years. But it's okay. I'm
Yeah.
focused on the lyrics. I'm focused on the words, the sound of my voice. I don't focus on the guitar or that. And when I do the music, I go to a producer or a multi-instrumentalist who add on all these colors onto my canvas, onto my outline.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with everyone. You focus on one thing and you become really good at it, and to the detriment of all else. If you're a great singer, you don't. They're not, these days they're not writing their own songs so much. Maybe if you're like Adele, you have a beautiful voice. You don't have to work on your ukulele skills or anything like that.
Yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. If you're inspired by finding that next great note your voice can do, or if you're inspired by a solo, or some interesting chord progression that you find, I mean, that's kind of where you express yourself, and
Right.
you're a troubadour. You express yourself with words. What kind of landscapes really, like, as soon as you see it, like you enter a valley or you drop into a whatever, how do you know, like, this is an area right here, I'm going to get a song no matter what I do? Like, what have you noticed in terms of traveling and writing?
It's people more than places. It's always the energy you get from a person, their life story, for example, about how they've been a logging protester, and how they climbed up into the trees to stop all the ancient forests being cut down, and then you articulate their story, or how they bought a bus and drove to Greece to make a mobile library to sell books, to give books to refugees and give them free internet access. And so these people have fantastic stories, so then you just got to make it rhyme, really, and put string 3 chords together. It's really not that difficult.
And then once you learn them, are they in your head forever, or do you have to reference notes to go back and pull them up?
Good question. Yeah, usually I forget them, but they're there once I get the first few lines. I just pull it all out. It's
So it's buried in there. You got to access it with a note or something, and then you can get there. Okay.
Yeah,
I play the
first line.
Yeah, I play the guitar a little bit, and like you, I've reached the OK plateau. I probably know. Well, like if you tell me, like, play a diminished seventh, E, I probably can get there, And so I don't need to know any more chords. I just need to work on, being smooth and those kind of things. And I never practice anymore. I should, but I don't have time for that because I podcast, and this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
this is my voice, right? So I get the okay plateau thing, and I'm probably never going to add hammer-ons in or pull-offs,
Yeah.
and it's just it isn't.
And no one,
All I'm
no one
trying to
notices. All your friends,
right.
think you're a great guitarist, and
Hey, look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to sing in the key that I'm playing, which I find to be somewhat hard, and it's I can carry a tune. I can't play the same tune I'm carrying often. And so I'm like, damn it. Why can't I figure this out? And it's a simple thing. They're both proficient. It's just they don't always jive,
Right. I hear you.
So you meet a girl and you go to Italy and you give up this road lifestyle that sounds super exotic and sexy, but obviously a girlfriend and living in Italy is pretty sexy too. Talk about that transition and what was that like to give that kind of, I don't want to say vagabond, that's too negative, but giving that up.
Well, we had sort of transition phase. We met in New Zealand, and because I'd advertised for people to come on tour with me, I say I'm going to be cycling around New Zealand. Let's have a little posse of people, and yeah, it was great. And we met, and the rest is history. And she came with me around New Zealand. Then I went to Australia, and I had already arranged with some other people, some other musicians to cycle from Melbourne to Sydney. And so she stayed behind, and I played with these other musicians, and had a crazy time. And then I missed her, and I called her to Australia, and she came because she was traveling as well, backpacking. So we went up as far as, we left the other musicians, because they were crazy, and we went up as far as Cairns, and then we hitchhiked on a boat. It's called, with the grotty yachties, who are these retired people who sail around the world perpetually. And they've saved up for their whole life to buy a boat, and now they're doing it. So we hitchhiked with this old Dutch guy whose wife had left him, and he was virtually suicidal. And it was a terrible trip up the coastline across all around the top curve of Australia, and we arrived in Darwin and said we were supposed to go to the rally. They did this big sailing rally up to Bali, and we said no, we're getting off the boat. We got off the boat in Darwin, and we scrubbed some money together for some tickets to Bali, and we flew there, and we bought a tandem, and then we cycled through Indonesia to Malaysia. We cycled up the east coast of Malaysia during Ramadan, which was on this tandem, and we would busk because there's no food in the daytime.
Right.
Yeah, so it's the worst time in the heat.
Yeah.
So we were busking at these night markets because everyone buys their food. They get these huge food markets, and some people had never heard music before because it was quite strict Muslim culture. And yeah, so we would everyone buys their food, and then when the sun goes down, they all sit on the ground and start eating. And then the stall holders would give us all this food in these plastic bags, and it was crazy. And then we went up to Thailand, and then back down, and then she had to go back to finish she had to do an exam, and so I said, well, I kind of had enough now as well. I'll come with you as well. So we went back to live in Rome for a bit, and then we moved further south to where I am now, the Cilento, which is quite a hidden, unknown area in Italy. It's spectacular, opposite the Amalfi Coast. It's a national park, but it's beautiful. But it's not famous. It's not known in America. But it's very beautiful. So that was 8 years ago, and I think I've made the transition gradually. It's like a bouncing ball. I did some more trips after that. I did the tour of Germany, and I went to India, and I did do some other trips. But yeah, now I'm traveling less and less every year, and COVID hasn't helped. So
yeah, for sure. And then when you're traveling, how far are you riding on a bike? In a day, are you going like 30 miles or town to town or further than that?
Yeah, it could be 60 miles, probably the max. With the gear and everything. It was Maria she liked hitchhiking, so we did that as well with the tandem. we just, because like in Thailand, everyone has pickup trucks.
Right.
So you just stand in the middle of the road and hold the front wheel up and say, give us a lift, and then they drive us to the next town. Because sometimes the only way is like a motorway, and you don't want to cycle on that. So
sure,
or sometimes
sure.
you're just running out of light, and sometimes you're just tired.
You're prolific, man. Like if you go to, so everybody should go check it out, jackstafford.org, and then go to the music tab, and you'll just see just how many bits of music. Like it just goes on for how many songs have you written? Have you written 400 songs?
Oh yes, it's definitely more, getting up to that. Yeah, probably more than that now. Yeah.
What are some of your favorites?
Good question. They're like your children, They're always
Yeah.
So this new album is about the mind and about my meditation practices and about all my my struggles with the voice in the head. So it's called songs like "Are You the Master of Your Mind?" and "Background Worry," and yeah, just trying to master this voice in the head. So these are the new songs coming out, and I'm really happy with them. The last single, "Background Worry," was which I did this video for, because I couldn't do a music video because of COVID. I couldn't get out to film it. I had to cancel that.
Right.
So I asked all my friends and fans from all around the world to record themselves singing the song, and then I put them all in order. And then people. So it starts with the toddlers, and it goes older and older and older as we worry through life. Yeah. It's quite a nice effect. They're all singing these heartfelt words, background worry going on. All are always craving. And then it's sad, sad, sad. And it gets very poignant with the old ladies and old men at the end.
I know exactly which video you're talking about. I saw it with the kids lip syncing and everything. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. Okay. That puts that all into context for me now. Yeah, that's a fantastic song, and I really I appreciate the message because it is that voice is always there. A buddy of mine, Tom Connors, is asking, and it's the perfect time to ask this question: how did you get into the meditation practice, and who taught it? And then I'm going to add in a third element to this. Is this something that you do in a specific setting? Like when I meditate, I can be in my truck, I can just take a pause. It can be seconds, is all I need to kind of just deflate the bubble a little bit. But sometimes it's a full thing. Talk about your meditative practice. How did you learn it? How do you do it? And how do you teach it maybe too?
Well, I started in Amsterdam when I was doing the yoga classes, and everyone just taking it as a student, everyone adds it onto the end. It's kind of everyone's doing it, and so and then I kept doing it. I've just found it helpful, to sit in silence and focus on the breath, just watching the breath go in and out. And then after I stopped traveling, when I moved to Italy, I wanted to go deeper. So I looked for a meditation retreat, because if you want to really concentrate on something, it's good to go and just do it to the exclusion of all else. And there were these 10-day Vipassana retreats. So you sit in silence for 10 days. You wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and you meditate till around 6. You have breakfast. You meditate more. Lunch at 11:30. Then you meditate more, and that's the last meal of the day. And you're doing about 10 hours meditation a day, and so it's really intense. Because you're not allowed. It's all in silence. You're not allowed to speak, but the voice in your head didn't get that memo. And he's still chatting away to you about giving you a commentary on everything you've yet to do and everything you've done and things you could be doing. It's just very annoying. So that's kind of quite confronting.
Yeah. I wanted to just amplify what you're saying there too, because the voice, in my head, if I'm calm and I'm quiet, it will run out of things to say, and I'll realize it's on a loop.
You lucky bastard.
I know. It doesn't mean I feel it. It just means I can think it. I go, oh, okay. It's just the same thing over and over again, But you really got to shut up for a long time to let it run out of things to say.
Have you been on one of these courses or a retreat?
No, I just have, as a combat guy, I've had to try to find my way through my own stuff. And part of it has been meditation. And so I've dove pretty deep into my own personal practice, and I've got my own techniques that I've kind of developed through a little bit of this, a little bit of that. but yeah, I mean, some silence and some calm and some breathing, and then some of my peers who are a lot more physical with this approach, and their meditation is reaching the limit of their mental strength, and then they just keep pushing through it, taking that next step, pushing that next bit of weight, and they just, they use the physical aspect to deny that voice. I mean, they hear it and it's telling them to stop, but they're like, we ain't stopping today. Like, yeah, you can make me collapse. I'm going to get up and keep running again. So this is a temporary thing, and that's how they approach it. And I get it. I don't think I would do that, but that's how they do it. And they talk about the same kind of things, like defeating that internal negative response to your actions.
Okay. I just read a good book by Stephen Hayes. He's a psychotherapist that about just if you just watch the mind and even give it a name, it's Daniel or Darren. So you get some separation there, and that really helps. So because you just say that because in the Buddhism they say that the mind is a sense door. So you have your ears and your smell and your taste and your sight, and your mind is like another sense door. So it's not you. It's trying to help you. It's information. So if you give it a name, then yeah, you have some separation there. So this is what Daniel thinks he's giving me. Oh, well, thank you very much for that advice. I'll think about that. Or he writes, you can write down, if you have these repetitive thoughts, you can say, if it's like I'm not good enough, or you can write it on a piece of paper and stuff it down your shirt, or you can say it, repeat it 30 seconds, repeat it very quickly. There's a lot of these hacks for just getting this separation. And once you have that separation, then it's not shouting at you in your face. It doesn't overpower you. Or you can keep a diary of thought records, like a diary of. So you write down every thought, and then you can see if you're going to lose your temper or you're going to get angry. You can see the dialogue that's building up, because nothing comes out of nothing. It's all this build up. You justify it to yourself. Well, this situation, I have reason to get upset now. I'm justified in getting upset now. This is okay, and so you give yourself permission to get angry, but there's this build up which you have to become aware of, and it takes a lot of practice. But I think that helps a lot. It's this like you say, it's this meditation while you're driving. It's this self-awareness.
Yeah. And for me, it can be little maintenance meditations. It doesn't have to be a full-on candles and chanting, and it can just be 30. It can be at a red light and just like, let me reset real quick here. And it's not a full reset, but it's just, a constant, effort. It's like planing wood, and it's just one swipe of the plane across the wood, and you're going to get a little closer to where you want to be. How did you learn all this?
Well, just from study, from having a curious mind. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm more into, so I went to India and I studied Ayurveda. And while I was there, I had kind of a spiritual evolution, shall we say?
Okay.
It wasn't a spiritual awakening with bright lights and angels and anything, but I just I started waking up at 3:33 every morning.
Okay.
On the dot, which is, like Groundhog Day. It's kind of it gets your attention, and so I Googled it, and I, as you do, and there's all these YouTube's video about 333 and what it means, and is it God's number and what it means to wake up at 3:33. So it's about synchronicity. So it says, the combination of the advice was you should look for other synchronicity in your daytime. So if everyone tells you about this town, everyone tells you about this city 3 times a day, then maybe you should move to this city or something like that. But for me, it was I saw all these Kundalini lectures, and some people talking about Kundalini. I was staying behind a center that was Kundalini, and I never heard of Kundalini before. I thought it was a type of yoga, but I didn't really know. So one person advised me to read this book called The Serpent Power, which explains Kundalini. and it's a translated Sanskrit text, and it's quite heavy, you know. So I googled a course about it, and I found this guy in Miami called Nehemiah Davis, and he gives these really clear lectures about it. So there's me in India having a spiritual education from this guy in America. Looks like could be a quarterback or something. It's a strange experience. So, but anyway, he goes into, so he has an incredible story. So he was born into a yogi family. His father was a yogi in the Bahamas. So he also never been to India. But so he was doing mantra and pranayama at 3 years old. And so he developed his psychic powers through this deep meditation and mantra, pranayama, and raising kundalini. And so he had superpowers, basically. You know, he could do astral projection. He could, as a child, him and his sister could leave their bodies and go running around the neighborhood, you know, or he could go to other realms.
Yeah.
Or, you know, they can do healing, you know, send out prana from the hands. They can see the divas. All these things that just sound from the fairy tale stuff. Yeah. But he explains. He goes in his YouTube lectures. Mystic Knowledge is his channel, and he explains the metaphysics, the science behind what you do when you say a mantra. You repeat. You know, if you sing a note, you can break a glass. Yeah. Or you can cause an avalanche. And he explains how you repeat these Sanskrit mantras, and they reset your chakras, and they merge your psychic senses with your physical senses, and how you create this openings, and how the science of it, and the mystic constitution of man. So it's quite boring, you know. It's like it goes.
I find it fascinating,
very detailed, but then you get these spectacular results, which, you know, how to be clairvoyant. You can touch something and you can know the history of it, where it was last week, and you can see through walls, and, you know, it's mind blowing, yeah. And it's just through saying a mantra, a vibration, or holding your breath, which is pranayama, so that the prana rushes in through other openings and eventually opens up your psychic senses. And apparently it's very easy to do. You can do it really hard and accelerate it, but then it'll blow your mind, and you might get a rise of kundalini, which you can't walk afterwards. So it's a very dangerous thing to do, but he was born into a psychic family, and so he did it under very controlled circumstances, but it's not advised for everyone. I wouldn't say to anyone watching this, go and do kundalini yoga or kundalini yoga practice. But you can, if you do it gradually with combined with prayer, mantra, and pranayama, you can gradually raise your vibrations and evolve in this way. And you can gradually have some. I mean, I have no experiences. I'm not speaking from any proof that I can do these, but I've noticed since I've been doing the practices for a year now that you evolve. So
a friend of mine is a very long time practicing Buddhist, and, you know, we have these conversations where, you know, we're exchanging these philosophical ideas, and it's pretty complex. But I don't know that he does the full physical practice side of it. Do you think can you be, it's sort of like Catholicism, where you're like, I'm going to do this, but not that. Can that work? And I'm not saying anything about my friend's practice. He does what he needs to do, but do you feel like it needs to be an all-encompassing thing, or is this something that you can piecemeal? Like, I'm not trying to astral project. I just want to, you know, be happier in my life.
Well, they say, yeah, if you aim for the moon, if you reach for the moon, you won't come up with a pile of mud.
Yeah. Okay, let's get back into the music side of things. So as an artist, you know, you can look around, and, you know, I'm looking at your Instagram page right now. You know, you've got a small audience there. You got a small audience in, we'll say, Bruges or whatever, because you spent, you know, a great week on someone's couch, that kind of thing. But you really can be, in this time, as long as you live simply within your means, you can have an audience that is essentially invisible to like me, right? I can look at YouTube channel, you don't have that many subscribers, and be like, oh, he's nobody. But the reality is, you've been to 40 countries. You've touched a lot of hearts with your music. Talk about that form of audience building and what it means for you to be able to do that now.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, these days with as you say, with us chatting across the Atlantic Ocean,
Yeah,
man, it's pretty incredible. So yeah, it's all micro niches these days, and I have the same tools now at my disposal that, you know, any record company does. Maybe less
yeah,
money, but I have creativity to compensate.
sure.
So yeah, and I have the recording software. I have a telephone with a camera. I can make videos. I can
Good
I
videos,
can
like not just like,
good.
you know, like
Yeah,
absolutely.
I could do everything. So I have the distribution. I can get my music on Spotify within a week. I can I have Facebook ads to reach a specific audience. I just have all these tools. So if there's no excuse for not getting your music out there these days.
Yeah, yeah. And then are you able to make a legitimate living just off of the, because you've got, you know, hundreds of songs on your page. I mean, is there enough flow that comes in for that, or do you have to continue to work in some other fashion?
Yeah, I have to do. I do some writing as well for websites and translation because I'm in Italy, you know, so I translate from Italian into English. But I'm really making a concentrated effort now for the first time because I was very wrapped up in, you know, when you're doing that, you don't have much time. I wish I'd done a documentary about the travels because that would have been a great. Yeah, if I ever travel
Mhm.
again, I'll take the camera and film the story, you know, because that's much more interesting. But now this is the first time I'm releasing a I'm releasing a song every 6 weeks with a video, and I'm going to do that perpetually now. And there's this guy called Tom Rosendahl, who I'm a big fan of, and that's where I got the idea for putting the fans in the videos because you should check him out on internet. He's very good, and he has I think 200,000 subscribers now, but he's been making videos for 10 years and
Right.
releasing songs. And so I'm just kind of follow that format to get
I mean,
to
it's
build.
remarkable because you can, I mean, you already have a big body of work. Clearly you're prolific and the well hasn't dried up. So yeah, why not put out a song and video every 6 weeks, you know?
Yeah.
And then you're going to find out that you can do it faster. So why not put one out every 5 weeks, you know? And like,
Oh, hey.
I'm, I'm
Don't
just
overload
saying,
me here.
that's how these, you know, that's how these things go though. You're like,
just,
actually,
just because Pete, you do a show every day doesn't mean that we all have to.
that's true. You've got other
Just
things to do. But I mean, either way, after 10 years, you've got a tremendous body of work. You know, I mean,
right.
it's 500 weeks of songs, you know, that's, you know, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so to be able to touch lives, and then you must know this as a musician, you know, you put your music out there and someone's going to take it and it's going to mean something to them that you never even conceived of, but it spoke
Right.
directly to their heart in a given time and it touched them in specific ways. Do you have any of these kind of stories for us at all, where when your music has come back to you in a way that you didn't recognize it, but you appreciated it?
Yeah. I mean, I recorded an album in Philadelphia, and yeah, I get messages from the guy who owned their hairdressing salon down below the studio. Oh no, he actually owned the studio, and yeah, he sends me messages how he listens to the song "Mortgage on Your Mind," and he still plays that in his car when he's driving around, and you know that's incredible, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is. It is incredible, and to be able to do that is neat. So, okay, what are you working on right now? Just is it the song thing primarily, where every 6 weeks you're putting something out?
Yeah, that's quite an undertaking, but I'm planning quite well ahead, so I've got that I've got that under control. The next video, because it was a crazy project to do this background worry video. I didn't realize that getting people to lip syncing and I'd never edited a video before, so I
Yeah,
had to learn that. And the huge process of asking people to send me a video was also huge because I had to email thousands of people to get enough people to. Needed 90, almost 100 people for the song, of all
right.
ages. You know, and they're all my friends. It turns out are middle-aged white people. So You know, to get old people and young people and people in their 20s, I don't know anyone, so I didn't have
Yeah.
any. So it was I tried to, because the race riots, well, the Black Lives Matter is going on, and so I want to make it more multicultural, and I'm really struggling. I'm trying to asking people around the world, but I did manage to get 35 countries in the end.
That's incredible. Look, and that's as multicultural as you need to be. I'm just going to tell you right now, it doesn't have to be black and white, And as you know, like you've been through 40 different countries, and you start to realize that we're just people, when you do, because same thing. Like I've been to places, I've seen what struggle looks like, and it didn't matter what color they were. It mattered that they were struggling and needed help. Not that any one people don't matter. Everybody matters. Everybody has struggles, and it's easy to lose sight of that when you have your own struggle, and you can't appreciate, like, some guy in Egypt who has nothing. Here in America, we are also wealthy. This is my example I always use. We poop into drinkable water and flush it down the toilet, never give it a second thought.
Right, that's crazy. You wash your food before you.
Yeah. And it's, it's so decadent to put your waste into clean water, where there's someone. I've been in Iraq. I was by a trench where they had water and it was purple from all the chemicals in it. And then 100 yards away was someone drawing water out of that to sell to the entire community with the water truck. That's crazy, And so when we look at these problems, man, having some perspective like you've had, that's got to inform what's important to you in your life and what really matters and where your efforts need to be.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think if you have gratitude, then life is a joy, and I don't, I forget about it. And I am complaining as much as everyone, but the people I look up to, and the people that, the people who you look at them and they're glowing, are the people who are grateful for everything. And yeah, if we could cultivate that, then the world would be a wonderful place. We'd float through life, wouldn't we?
I have a philosophical practice, and it's just for me. No one else has to do this, but I try to default to grace whenever possible. Try to just be gracious, grateful, all the grays, right? And I fail at this all the time. I mean, it's a practice that I'll never master. But gosh, isn't it, like, for me, I'm like, it's good to be able to be gracious as a default, and to recognize it when you weren't. And then, by design, you can say, today I'm going to be mad at this. But again, getting back to my default being grace.
That's what I miss from the house concerts, is that I was a nicer person then. I think I was because when someone brings you food before the show, and they've made the bed, and then they've gone to all this trouble of inviting all their friends, and it just opens your heart, and you just. Yeah, I mean, I was a much nicer person then. I mean, in that respect, I was so grateful. I was riding around on a grateful chariot.
Yeah, a grateful chariot. And when you open your heart to things, like when you purposely crack it open and allow yourself to be vulnerable, to be exposed, man, the rewards, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think, when we're all staying in our home and we're watching, we expose ourselves to the people that are watching your podcast are the people who like you and agree with everything you say, and and we all expose ourselves to the things we like and the people on our wavelength, and they reinforce what we already believe. So we exist in this bubble. But like you say, when you go to Egypt and everything's shaken out, and you're forced to reevaluate everything you've ever thought before, then that's when real progress is made.
Yeah, again, like back to the US, and we'll ban plastic straws, and I'm like, you need to go to the Horn of Africa and see like where the real work with plastic is, and the amount of waste that's just because they don't have a sanitation system. And it's like the $50,000 you spend on this campaign to get this done when we already bag our trash for the most part. Are we perfect? No, but look over it. Let's go work over here where we want to keep plastic out of the oceans. That's where real help needs to be. And look, God bless, do your thing, have your thing, but open your eyes to the bigger world, and you will see people back when the Syrian conflict was going on and all those refugees were getting pushed out and they were getting killed and everything. It's 1,000 miles from Syria to Raqqa to Rome, if that. You think about how close that is, and the human suffering that's going on. And, that's not even half of the United States across 1,000 miles. That's like a third of it. It really makes you think. Like, what the hell am I doing? Like, where can I really help someone? But help them where they're at. Don't say, here's your help, I'm going to make your life better. But like, how can I help you? As opposed to, you need to change your life. Because we like to do that a lot around here.
No, that's definitely, even more than gratitude is service. If you live your life in service, that's gold. Yeah. It's hard to be, if you hear somebody talk about how depressed they are, it's very rare that they're depressed because of all the plastic pollution, or they're depressed about the situation in Syria. I'm so depressed about that war on the other side of the world. Okay, you can be affected by it, but the real depression is usually selfish. My problems, the voice in my head is broadcasting on Radio Jack is bad news for me, so it's usually selfish. We haven't overcome that. We're self-identified with this radio.
Yeah. My radio goes off all the time telling me that this isn't going to work and all these other negative things. It's so crazy. And it's so true. And it's easy to get lost in those things, and they become the all-encompassing thing around you. But the minute you reach out and help someone or something, it's just like instant medicine.
Yeah. No, it's so much more, the pursuit, the meaning of, people say that the meaning of life is the pursuit of happiness. And they say, oh, you're wrong to think that. But that's true, that you have to pursue happiness, but not yours, other people's. And it's so much more satisfying, if you work on your garden all day, as I do, it's nothing compared to going and helping someone else with theirs, and then seeing that serving them is just so much better than serving yourself. And if I look back on all my history and all the things I've done and achieved, and I did this and I made this and that, it's pretty meaningless, but if I devoted that time to deep service, that would live on. I could be proud of that forever.
Do you look back on some of your previous work and let yourself down with where you were at, or do you look back and go, yeah, that's true to who I am today? Or is it something else? I put two values on that.
Well, I don't know. When I was traveling, it was always about me. I was on the Jack Stafford experience. I was promoting myself, even though I was bringing light and music. I still thought I was the star rolling into town. So it's very much an ego trip. And so that didn't make me as happy as I did if I did exactly the same actions, but in a selfless way, I would have been so much more happy.
So that's your 1% growth is you were a happier person, but you were more ego driven at the time. You'd like to be a happier guy, but more driven by service.
Oh, 100%, 200%. Yeah.
Tom is saying that you are a wonderful guest, and he said, karma, a very lucky person that you got on the show. And I totally agree, man. I love these kind of conversations. And one of the reasons when I said yes was we have enough pain and misery in the world, in the media, and just to offer something, because I'm a media outlet. So as I offer the commentary on the world, from all of us, it's important to balance some of this stuff out, because we can do a lot of self-harm. I for the most part, don't watch the news, because all they ever tell me are terrible things.
Yeah.
It's like
not usually. There's something at the end. If you watch the half-an-hour show, the last minute.
The squirrel.
A squirrel was found and it's been saved, and then so teachers have been awarded. That's some good. They always finish on a high. Be fair.
Be fair. Yeah, I need to watch the last minute and a half of the hour-long show so I can see the little kid eating birthday cake. But yeah, that self-care, that self-help, it's important. How dedicated do you think someone have to be? You know, like, look, you got your workaday life, you've got your corporate job, you've got your, you know, your money to make and your retirement to save up for. But how much time would you say you need to allot for your own self-care? Like, what does that look like time commitment wise for someone who's got 3 kids running around the house that, you know, they want to be part of their lives, you know?
Just make every moment, you know, service to others. You know, even if you've got a crappy job and, you know, you don't like carrying out the trash, you know, do that, but do it with love, and then, you know, do everything as service for others. Then, yeah, you'll have a wonderful life, and then you'll naturally rise above it. Once you accept a task, you won't be given it again, because you've learned that lesson. You know, if you're having problems and they keep repeating, it's because you haven't learned that lesson. That situation is repeating because you have not accepted it. You have not. So if you're having arguments with someone, or you're having a problem with your boss, if you just accept what they're saying, or accept this situation or this lesson or this accident, or accept it. Okay, I have learned this lesson. I understand. You'll find that doesn't repeat anymore, and you'll move on to other problems, maybe even bigger ones, because those are the ones you need to learn next. But you will accelerate your evolution, and you'll overcome these repetitive problems.
The cautionary tale, not the other side, is if you refuse to learn the lessons that life offers, it will offer shittier and shittier versions of the lesson. You know, where you're like, God, why didn't I learn this 10 years ago? You know?
Well,
Yeah.
karma, the definition of karma is, the best definition I heard is, karma is pressure. So karma is, you can run, like the Marilyn Manson song, or the Johnny Cash song, you can run on for a long time, but sooner or later, God's going to cut you down. And you can do that. You can keep going, and you can build up more and more negative pressure against yourself. You know, like John Lee Hooker's Jr., you know, you can keep going to prison. You can keep running against the system, but sooner or later, you build up so much pressure that it pushes you back by force, you know. So
everyone I know that has been through that kind of trial or tribulation, whether they've one of the guys was a military guy, and not through military accident, but just an accident in general, lost his sight complete, you know, totally lost it. Someone like John Lee Hooker Jr., these guys that go through these enormous trials, this guy, he's a Navy SEAL, Craig Sawman Sawyer. All these guys say, I had to go through that trial to become the person that I am. Without this trial, like without going through SEALs and being, you know, an operator for 20 years, which is an extraordinary hard life, without going through the prison and the addiction problem that John Lee Hooker did, without being blinded like Lanny had happened to him, they all say, I wouldn't be the person that I am today. I grew because of this tragedy. And to take that point of view from someone who's had a problem you would never want to trade, man, it's just, you know, you can learn from anything if those guys can become something that they never could have become otherwise, you know, through an easier life or an easier path.
Yeah, that guy, Stephen Hayes, whose book I was reading, he had a nervous breakdown, and now he formulated a new theory of clinicology. So, yeah, I think you can go throughout history, can't you, and see all these people who've had these terrible breakdowns and become the giants, you know, whose shoulders we stand on.
Yeah. I mean, Anne Frank has her story being told right now today on Netflix. You know, you don't go through a bigger trial than she went through. I mean, she didn't even survive it, and look at her impact on the world. And she, as a kid, as a 16-year-old, it's like, I want to be remembered. Well, you know, you're immortal is what you are.
Yeah.
It's incredible that through these trials we can have this wonderful growth. We don't want the trial, but that's not how it works.
The trial, no. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's wonderful that people say these things, you know. So I wondered if there's obviously people at home who don't accept it, don't see it as their greatest lesson, and they, you know, I think they're outnumbered, aren't they? I mean, the people who are still struggling.
Yes.
You know, lost after terrible experiences, and they haven't come on all these shows and talking about it and bounced back as high as people like we've just spoken about.
All right, so we've been at this for about an hour, and I've been hammering away with all the questions and driving everything. I want to give you the opportunity to talk to me a little bit and ask me anything you want to ask.
No, I think
fair enough.
Yeah, I mean,
I always like to offer.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's great what you're doing. I mean, I've been going back through your podcast, and it's an inspiration. You know how, I mean, this backdrop of people who you're someone like more people like you who are curious. The world will be a much better place now.
Yeah, and one of the things that I force myself to do is I try to find conversations that are uncomfortable. I don't know anything about astral projection. I mean, I know the words. I know that George Harrison did it, and now I'm out of things I can say. Like.
Yeah.
So you have to get it. I have to get into these kind of conversations, whether it's philosophically what I believe or whatever. And if I can relate to that person, I can continue to grow and get beyond things like money or race or all these things that we limit as like single things. The human condition is too complex for that. And when you see that mosaic behind the thing, that is the human condition. It's all these people, but it's only 1 hour, like you and I, 1 hour. Come on, we can do 20 more, and not get to the bottom of it all.
Yeah.
So I appreciate.
You just have to have me back on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem. And Tom said so too. He's like, I hope you keep him as a close friend, and I do too. I always want to get to Italy when it's safe to do so. But
you're welcome here. You're welcome at my house. It would be lovely to have you.
Nice. I love it. And same here. Come out to Orange County and we'll put you up. You don't have to even ride a bike. You can just take an airplane or whatever you want. We'll come pick you up.
Do I have to play a show?
What's that?
Do I have to play a show?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But I'll grab my guitar and my harmonica and I'll play some songs with you,
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it. Yeah.
One of my favorite songs to do on karaoke is to sing Jackson as a duet with another dude, just because it shakes the room up. All right, Johnny Cash jokes. That's great. Hey, man, listen, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. Everybody should go check you out. And let me pull up the website here so you can all see it. jackstafford.org. All kinds of stuff. He's got a blog there. Tons and tons of music. It's like $1 a song, or maybe it's €1 a song, whatever it is. Either way, it's not very expensive. Find something you like. Drop a couple bucks in his pocket. That's what you do for such a great guy. And Jack is helping us all see our turn our inner radio voice down, or at least understand it better, right? And we all can throw a couple of bucks at that. So thank you, Jack, for coming on.
Thanks, Pete. No, it's been a wonderful experience. Thanks again for taking the time to chat to me.
All right, I'm going to sign off here. Hold on.